A very good evening to everyone who has joined us tonight. Welcome to our session that we present today from the Academic Writing Center. We resume our ongoing discussion on topics related to perfecting academic writing. In our session today, we're very lucky to have Dr. Eman Alshehri as a speaker who will talk about writing an effective literature review chapter. In any research piece, surveying literature is like the first essential foundational step on which a lot rely. It's like a very important step because that's when the researcher, after surveying the literature, wants to situate their research piece and think about their contribution. So doing the literature survey is one thing, and writing it up is another task. And we'll learn a bit more about details of writing an effective, good literature review chapter with Dr. Eman. Dr. Eman is an assistant professor of Applied Linguistics at the English Language Institute, King Abdulaziz University, Saudi Arabia. She earned her MA and PhD in Applied Linguistics from the University of Salford in the United Kingdom. Her research interests include second language acquisition, teacher education, second language motivation, and technology-enhanced learning. She has supervised several MA TESOL dissertation and published a number of studies on English language teacher professional development, technology use, and L2 motivation in the Saudi context. Without further ado, Dr. Eman, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Dr. Suha. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you tonight. In this session, we will talk about how to write an effective literature review chapter, how to find, organize, and critically discuss the research that supports your study. I hope this session will make the process more manageable for you. So let's get started. First of all, the literature review chapter is one, as Dr. Suha mentioned earlier, is one of the most essential parts of your MA dissertation or any other kind of research. It's where you show your understanding of the field, engage with current debates, and justify why your study is needed. Think of this chapter as the foundation of your research. If it's strong, your research later on will be strong, and the rest of your dissertation will stand firmly on it. So before we begin, let me see how to move this here. Before we begin, let's look at our objectives for tonight. By the end of this session, you will be able to understand what a literature review really is, identify the main purposes of a literature review, learn how to locate, read, organize relevant sources, and know the importance of critical reading and writing skills. So let's start by defining the literature review. So what we mean by a literature review? It is not as simple as a list of summaries of previous research done in your field of study. In fact, it's a critical evaluation and synthesis of what has been written in academic books and journals and articles about your topic. According to Hart 2018, Literature review forms the backbone of your research. It connects your study to previous research. Literature review provides context, so set the scene, show knowledge, show your own knowledge about current theories, definitions, and terminologies, provides a rationale, justify why you've chosen this topic, and it tells the story that leads to your research question. In this chapter, you show that you know what's been studied, how it's been studied, and what still needs to be examined. So in a way, you highlight the importance of your own project and research. So there are many purposes of a literature review. Some of them we talked about when we tried to define this concept. So it provides historical background for your research. It gives an overview of the current context of your research. You give an overview about relevant theories and terminologies and definitions. When you are doing so, you addresses the gap in the field, something missing or something underexplored, and that's exactly where your study fits. By this way, you highlight the significance and the importance of your study, and eventually you introduce your research questions. So to recap, the purposes of literature review, we can say it shows your ability to research, it shows your knowledge about the topic under examination, and it shows also the context of your study. And by doing these things, it leads to identifying the gap and justifying your study and connect your study or previous research to your research questions. You can think of literature review as a map. It guides the reader. This reader can be your supervisor, can be your examiners, from what we already know in this field to what your research will add to our knowledge. Look at this sample. This is a sample, I think, from a literature review. Take about 20 seconds. I want you to focus on the gap and the research question. So what is the gap here and what is the research question? Can you find it?
Okay, so we'll take like a few minutes, like 2 minutes or so, to find.
I think less, Dr. Soha.
Less than 2
I
minutes.
think half a minute is enough.
Okay, so we're looking for the gap and the research
Yes.
question. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Soha. I think this research is about the topic of pronunciation in instruction. So anyone, can you spot the gap? If you look here, I think you will find 3 paragraphs. In the second paragraph, you can spot the gap. Yes, right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, right. The gap is that there is no enough studies investigating this area of research in the area of pronunciation instruction. And the research question is written here at the end. It's one research question, yes, which is about whether students who receive instruction in specific features of pronunciation perform, yes, better than those who don't. So in the second paragraph, we can see the gap and the significance of doing a new study in this field. And later on, we have the research question. Okay, now let's talk about sources of information. When you begin gathering literature, rely on diverse and credible sources. Books provide theories, information about theories. Journal articles give you up-to-date evidence and data. Reports, theses, and dissertations offer specialized insights. Professional or government websites, like for example, Ministry of Education website, can provide policy context, yes. So how we find these relevant sources? Library catalogs, like Saudi Digital Library, give access to hundreds of databases. Bibliographical databases, which is organized publications in a particular subject area. For TESOL and education, ERIC and MLA is, yes, right, are useful databases. Google Scholar, yes, Dania, thank you. Internet search engines like Google Scholar provide academic web page links. And a very useful first step when you are looking for research, but you need to check whether the journal is peer-reviewed. Is the journal reliable? Is it peer-reviewed journal? You can find this at the website, this information at the website of the journal. Open access databases, which provide articles which are open for all researchers, like directly of open access journals. Now, how we can conduct a literature search? Before you start writing your literature review, you will need to conduct a kind of a literature search. So how you can do this? You need to start broad, then narrow down your search. Books are very good for broad themes and overviews about the topics. Journals give you up-to-date and peer-reviewed research. Ebook, online catalogs, and electronic journals are all useful. Try to use snowball technique. This is very useful. And you can follow up references in bibliographies of books and articles, and use citation tracking in electronic databases to find newer related work. So how you can use citation tracking? When you find one strong paper or a very good book in your area, look at who the author cited. Yes, snowball technique is when you find a strong paper, look at the author, look at the references section. Look who the author cited, and then look at this paper and try to find out who cited this paper. By this way, you will build up a research network. You will know the famous authors in this field. It's useful when you search for an article using Google Scholar or in a website, in a journal website, to create alert and stay current. So when you create alert, you add your email, then you will receive an email once new work appears on the area you are looking at. Yes, the library is important. Browse the shelves, and sometimes you find different titles which might be useful at different times. You need to stay current and follow up some researchers and use alerts in Google Scholars or in some journal website. And as usual, you will need to consult your supervisor and your colleague, but you also need to maintain independence by doing your own searches. So what you can read or what to read. Now you find some sources. What do you need to focus on? Yeah, before we... Yes, keyword searches are important. You need to find what you should look at in your topic. So if I am doing a research about L2 motivation, my keywords will be second language motivation. My keywords may be some of the theories in the field, like, for example, L2 motivational self-system, or self-determination theory. So you need to identify what the keywords that you need to look at when you are trying to find sources for your literature. Always keep a record of all searches to avoid repetition of your work, and keep systematic records. Documents all steps, references, and searches for future use. So to revise the process of conducting a literature search, you can start broadly by looking at sources in the library, Google Scholar, databases. Then you identify your focus, you refine the area, and you identify your keywords. Then after you get your keywords, you will start searching about these keywords on catalog and databases. You can use snowball technique, follow references, and track citations. And you should stay current by creating alerts. You will need always to refine and repeat, update your focus and record searches. And please note that this process is ongoing cycle throughout research and throughout writing your literature review. Okay, so what do you need or what do you need to read? What exactly should you read? You will start by reading key theories. For example, if I'm doing a research on L2 motivation, that's mean I will need to read about individual differences, because it's the main area of second language motivation, which L2 motivation lies under this. Okay, then you need to read also about different theories of L2 motivation, Gardner's theory, Dornay theories, self-determination theories. You will need to read some models, and you will need to read studies which are conducted in the world among EFL learners, and go and be more specific and read the studies which are conducted in Saudi Arabia, for example. Reading recent synthesis is very useful, especially at the early stages. Reading systematic reviews articles and meta-analysis articles, especially the one which are recent and done in the last decade. Reading high-quality empirical studies which match your context is also useful. For your methodology, you need to read some sample research, some studies which used your intended design and analysis. And also you might find it helpful if you read studies which use the same instrument that you adopt in your study. Studies which has contradictory findings are also important. You should read them and include them in your literature. These kind of study help you or help to show complexity of your area and justify in a way the need for your study. Throughout your reading, you need to keep a note of strong quotations or ideas that might later appear in your discussion or literature review chapter. Okay, now I know how to read. Now, how to read selectively? Reading everything in full isn't realistic. So you will need to read selectively. Some authors suggest that you should follow 3 levels of reading. So in level 1, it's like quick scan. It takes less than 5 minutes. You will focus only on scanning the title, abstract, introduction, part of the introduction, headings, and conclusion. So in this stage, you should decide, is this source relevant? If the source is relevant, keep it. And it will go with us to the level or the second level. So the second level is focused read. It might, depending on the length of the book or the article, but if it's an article, it might take up to 15 minutes. For books, it might take longer. So in this level, you pay closer attention to methods and results. Who did or what did they do and what did they find? And you also look at limitations and relevance. Then you will need to decide, do you need to cite this source or not? If you need to cite it, you will include it in your record. If you don't need to cite it, you might just leave it for later. If you think this paper is very central for your research and you want to spend more time reading this paper, so we will take it to the third level. Level 3, keep it only for studies which are central to your research question, to the theory you are adopting or the methods. What do you need to do at this level? You will need to take detailed notes and link ideas to other sources. You might need to ask yourself, how does this shape or challenge my own research? So after deciding how to read sources, you will need to have like a kind of record where you document your reading. So each person has his or her own style. but I find the literature matrix is very useful. So this is an example of a literature matrix where you can do it on Excel or in Word. You have different headings. So you can have a heading about author, year, method, key findings, and limitations. Each row is about a study. This way is this tool is very useful because it keeps all the sources organized in one place, and by doing so, you avoid duplications and repetitions. You can compare and contrast the studies and find the gap quickly. You can evaluate relevance and quality, not just summarize. In your writing, when you are using this study, you can group studies into themes for writing, and it's time saving. So you will find references, your references documented, and no need, sometimes you will not need to recheck every article if you have a good summary of the article in this literature matrix. So if you intend to do a literature matrix like this, do you think you will need to add, or if you have used it before, do you think you need an extra headings or extra headings? Or if you add a heading, what heading is this? Yes, yes, right. Pros and cons. You can add, yes, notes, your personal notes and reflection about this source. Yes, website link is very useful. Yes, right. Theories they adopt, the instrument, yes. And some critical comments. And the focus, yes, the focus of, or the research question of the source is really useful. Yes, right. Well done. Okay, now let's move to managing references. So as you know, you will need to, it's an essential part of writing in academic. You need to document each reference, use in-text citation, and include the references at the end of your work. You can use some referencing softwares like EndNotes and Mendeley. You should start doing so at the beginning of your work and don't leave it up to the end. Okay, now we will talk about the structures of this chapter. Okay, so there are three structures: chronological, thematic, and methodological. Let's talk about the first one. From its name, the chronological structure traces time or the developments over time. It's organized by publication date or history of the topic. You will need to use this type or this structure if time order of events is important. What about the second one? Thematic structure. This structure organized by topics or themes, and most dissertations are using this kind of structure. You need to use this type to go from general topic or general themes to more specific. The last structure is methodological. You group studies by methods used, and you need it when the research methods are the main focus of your research. Why structure matters? Why it's important to follow a structure in your research or literature review? Yes, right, Rinad. This is a very good question. Yes, you can mix these structure. So usually thematic and methodologicals are mixed, and sometimes you will need a sense of time order. So it's okay, but at least you have a clear structure in your literature review chapter. So why this important? It keeps your readers engaged. It helps you to move from broad themes into specific. By using a structure, you avoid author by author summary. And this is one of the mistakes which MA students do in their dissertation. It shows your ability to synthesize and critique literature. So look at this sample. Can you find out what's wrong with this paragraph? So what's wrong with this part of literature review? Yes, right. Well done. Listing, summary. Yes, excellent. So it's like listing or summarizing, yes, without clear structure. There is no clear structure here. It's like notes. If I read this, I will say that it's in the notes stage. The student has not write it yet into a part of a literature review. Yes, so this kind lacks structures. Now look at using the same, yes, so yeah, in this part, using the same information here, look how we can move it into a paragraph which has a clear structure. So can you see how is it structured? So they are structured around themes or methodology. Yes, right. It's also time. So we can, it's look like the writer used two structures, themes, thematic, yes, and chronological structure. So the themes are workshops, peer observation, mentoring programs, and online platform. And if you look at the date of publication, you can find this go from old to recent. Yes. It's important that you notice this style so you start using it in your own literature review. Now let's look at writing the literature review. What do you need to include? So it depends on in your topic, but as general guidelines, you need a clear and short introduction and you need a conclusion. In your introduction, you give an outline of the review, includes the main topics covered and the order of the arguments. After the introduction, you will start the main body of your literature review, which might include theories, arguments, models, definitions, studies conducted in the topic of investigation. You need to acknowledge opinions which don't agree with your thesis. You need to write an overview about the context of your study. At the end of your literature review, your writing will lead naturally to the gap and the purpose of your study, and eventually your research questions. Okay, why it's coming like this? So writing the literature review techniques that you need to use. when writing, combine these three techniques: summary, synthesis, and evaluation. So what is a summary? Summary, most of you use this style and it's important, but don't overuse it. So you need a short restatement of the main idea of the study. You focus on what was studied. So it's like a starting point. You give readers enough context to understand the and help establish the foundation for synthesis and critique. Look at this example here. This is an example of a summary of a study conducted by Smith. And you write it using your own words. So don't write a lot when you are summarizing a study. 1 or 2 sentences only per study is enough, unless it's highly important and relevant to your own study. Now let's look at the second technique, which is synthesis. So here, when you are doing or when you are using this technique, it's where your literature review really come alive. You are connecting multiple studies together under a common themes rather than listing them separately. Show patterns, agreements, disagreements, and trends, and you in a way show your ability to integrate knowledge. And this leads naturally to identify the research gap. This is an example of synthesized paragraph, part of a paragraph. As you can see, the first example is descriptive. So it looks like a summary of these 3 paragraphs. You need to write as the second example here, where you synthesize your idea and group it by theme, not by author. The third technique is evaluation, where you judge. So evaluation is your critical voice. It's judging the quality and credibility and relevance of studies. In this, or by using this technique, you are asking questions like, is the evidence strong? Are there limitations? Is it relevant to my research? Evaluation shows you are not just repeating, but thinking critically. Yes. And help you decide which studies to rely on and which to treat with caution. So look at this example. You write about this study conducted by Alice, 22, about benefits of mentoring. But then you are evaluating this study and say that the small sample size is only 12, so it's small. And why this is an issue? Because it has an effect, or it influences the generalizability of the findings. So you need at least one evaluative comments for every group of studies you discuss. Okay, look at this paragraph. So what do you think of this one, of this paragraph? Yes, right. So it's not strong. Yes, it's weak paragraph. It's summary only. Now, because of time, yes, right, there is no connection of the ideas. Now look how the writer now developed these same ideas and the same references into this paragraph. Now the paragraph looks strong and the writer uses synthesis and evaluation technique to connect ideas across sources. We can find different themes, and we can find here at the middle when when it says this study collectively suggests, here it's the voice of the researcher, the evaluation of the researcher. Okay. Then the writer doesn't only evaluate, yes, right. He doesn't only, or she doesn't only evaluate, she supports her own opinion and her evaluation. Yes. Okay, now let's talk about critical thinking. So being critical means being analytical, not being negative. It's mean questioning. You examine the strength, relevance, and implications of what you read or write. Look at this example here. Descriptive, the first one, and the second example is more critical. So critical is very close to being evaluative. Okay, you don't take everything for granted. No, you look at the study and look at the strengths and the weaknesses of this study. So why is being critical important? It shows a higher level of thinking, and that's what we are expecting from MA students. You should not report only what authors found. You have to judge its quality and relevance. It helps you identify gaps. By critiquing limitations, you can see where your research can contribute. It's important because you can avoid blind acceptance. So not every published study is flawless. You need to judge the credibility of the source. And by this, you strengthen your argument. So how can you be critical? You need to ask questions while reading. Who wrote this? Is he or is she famous in the field? What methods were used? Are they appropriate and reliable? Are the findings generalizable? To what context? Can it apply in my context of study? You can compare and contrast the studies and show where are the agreements and the disagreements, and highlight trends or shifts over time. You can use critical language. So instead of using Smith found that or Smith states that, you can use Smith's study is limited by. However, Smith provides a contrasting opinions or perspectives. So now let's talk about common mistakes in literature review chapter. Summary list is one of the common mistake. When a student summarize without synthesis, using outdated references, you should use recent references. Old references, sometimes you need it, but also you need to pay attention to the recent ones. What else? What do you think? Some of the common mistakes of writing literature. Yes, right. Writing about something which is relevant. Thank you. Ignoring contradictions. Sometimes when you find a contradictory source, you ignore it, and this is not right. Acknowledge that there is some contradictions in the field. In a way, this might support your research. Yes, no logical connection, doesn't use suitable structure. So to summarize, I want to say that the literature review is an argument that positions your research in the field. You need to organize it thematically and write critically. You need to use different techniques. You need to use summary, synthesis, and evaluation, and you need to be critical. If you do these things, your research literature review will not only impress examiners, but also strengthen your entire dissertation. So that's all for tonight. Thank you all for your attention this evening. I truly appreciate your participation, focus, and engagement.
Thank you so much.
And wishing you all success with your dissertations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eman. Thank you for a very comprehensive discussion of doing and writing up literature review chapters. We received lots of questions, and we're going to repeat them now. Ms. Rabia, Ms. Asrar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eman. It was such an incredible session, and everybody have thoroughly enjoyed it. We have a few questions. So there is a question: what is the recommended number of studies to include in a literature review?
Yeah, it depends. There is no certain number of studies that you should include in your dissertation or in your literature review. It depends. Each topic is different. It depends if your topic is very old and well researched, you might find difficulties to narrow down the number. If your study is recent, you might struggle to find enough sources. So this depends on the nature of your topic of investigation. There is no right or wrong here.
There was another question asked.
Yeah, these are the references if you need it, and this is the evaluation form QR code if you need it.
Thank you, Dr. Eman. There is another question someone has asked before. It was like they mentioned that there are endless sources of research. How much is too much when writing the literature review? And what should be the verdict that this is a good and enough, source?
I'm not sure if I understand this question. Can you repeat it, please?
So I guess it's circling back to the idea, how much is enough? Like,
yeah.
how much should we read to feel confident about, confident that we did conduct a good survey of literature?
Yeah, so usually you will need to cover the main theories of the field. You can't read everything, but you can focus on the main theories which are relevant to your study.
And I guess you would need to know key figures in the field.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So key figures, key theories, and definitely studies relevant to your context. Important study, recent important empirical studies. Do you think it's a good idea, Dr. Eman, to divide the literature review chapter into sections and probably heading and subheadings?
Yes, sure. Yes, it's very important, even for the flow of the literature review, that it's divided into headings and subheadings. So we might have a heading about the theoretical ideas or themes of the topic, then more about the practical, then about the context of the study. And so the organizing of these headings should go from general to specific.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So on top of the dividing of the chapter, uh, like having the flow, having a clear flow that moves the reader from broader survey into more narrower focus that is
Yeah.
very related to the study at hand is important. Any further questions from the audience?
Yeah, I can see Miss Dua, she write a question here about how recent are my references supposed to be if I'm writing a literature review in this year, in 2025. As a rule of thumb, we will say that the last decades are the recent studies, which are conducted in the last 5 up to 10 years. So the last 5 or up to 10 years are recent. Older than 2015, it is not recent and old sources.
Yeah. And probably showing a bit, I mean, it depends on the research project, like how big
Yes, right.
the research project is. So rules for probably a PhD research, PhD level research is different from rules, or the scope for PhD study is different from the scope for, let's say, MA thesis. But
Yes,
generally
right.
speaking, you would want to show probably how the topic under study developed over time, or how it moved from how it was first introduced by key seminal figures, and then how it was captured in recent studies.
Yes, right. And I can see that one of the audience say that some books are too old. Most of the books that we are using in literature review are old, especially the books which are giving us an overview of a topic or which deals with theories. And it's okay. We are not saying that we don't take references which are old. We are not saying that, but we say also include recent references. So it should be, you should have like a balance between old references and recent references.
Okay, here's a question about how to avoid summary style in writing up literature. How to
Yes, how to
avoid
avoid what?
writing, like how to avoid the summary, ending up writing summary, or write. I mean,
Yes.
we all agreed that uh, like writing up the literature review in the style of a summary, individual
Yes,
summary,
right.
is not advisable. So how to avoid that?
Yeah, by trying to group study into themes, trying to be evaluative when you are writing. Students, they should not only write summaries about the studies, but they should group these studies into different themes and write about the themes of the studies. So this is one way. It is a different skill than summarizing, and it's with practice student can do it. And I see that. I see that some students start with summarizing, but they can improve themselves and start synthesizing idea and be critical and evaluative in their writing as well. So it's a skill that a student can improve.
Yeah, I agree. So summary is like the first step, but it shouldn't
Yes,
stop.
right. Yes.
We shouldn't stop there.
Yeah.
We take it above to higher level by grooming, evaluating, and criticizing. Here, critiquing more than criticizing, really. Here's a question by well, in the chat, someone asked if it's okay, acceptable to use information from abstracts of research papers if they don't have access to the full paper.
So if this paper is published, so I assume that the paper is published. That's what I understand from the question. Do you think so, Dr. Suha? It's look like it's published, but it's not available online.
It's probably it's not like a full text. The full text probably is available, but probably they could not reach it. So it's published.
Yeah.
Yes, it's published, but they didn't have access to that. Somehow
yes.
they didn't have access to that.
Yeah. So if you have the main idea in the abstract, yes, you can use it in your references. If you have the main idea, you can get it from the abstract.
Well, if you can incorporate it, usually abstracts are very like condensed
Yes, right.
kind of writing, so it doesn't really provide much as it point towards whether, like, it helps you whether this reference would be useful or not. But I doubt if it has like enough information for anyone to write up literature review. I would assume it's always important to have access to somehow get your hand on the full text to judge whether or not that reference is important or useful. Okay, we're still we're receiving so many questions, and I'm afraid we're running out of time. So I have to stop here and probably just a reminder that this workshop and other workshops are all available on our YouTube channel. So you can always have this convenience of going there, checking them out and reviewing them. And we have also similar workshops on the topic. 2 weeks ago, we had a full workshop on synthesis, how to synthesize references in literature review. So you may want to watch that together with this workshop. At the end, I'd like to thank Dr. Eman Alshehri for a very insightful, comprehensive discussion of writing a comprehensive literature review chapter. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing all of that wonderful knowledge with us.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Soha, for this chance. And thank you very much, everyone. It's a real pleasure sharing this session with you all.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for coming to this session. Thank you for your participation, and we hope to see you all in our next sessions. We hope to see you sometime soon, Dr. Eman.